Hello and welcome everyone to this live stream. I hope you can already see and hear me okay. Today we're gonna do some live animating. You can see how my animation process is, what I'll be doing step by step. I'm gonna explain my workflow. I'm gonna explain my thinking while creating an animation. And we will have a look at one of the 51 animation exercises. Just in case you're not familiar with what that is. The 51 animation exercises is a list over on animatorisland.com where you find 51 very good exercises that will help you to shape your animation skills, to practice the things that are important. A little bit small, let's make it a little bigger. And I thought just to get back into making animation tutorials, and personally, I actually really miss doing some fun 2D animation. I figured we're just going to pick something from the list. And I was thinking, how about the flour sack kicking a ball? Now, I'm gonna jump to do that into Clip Studio Paint, but you can, of course, animate in any software. My explanations of how to do this will mostly revolve around how to think about animation and the basic steps that you have to do in every single software. Oh, the light is flickering. I wonder if the light bulb that I have in my big softbox is finally giving up. It's an LED that was good for like years and years of making videos on Animator Island. So it would be a historic event if the light bulb breaks today. Finally, after who knows how many years, because LEDs last for a long time. But yeah, I also have normal light in the room, so we won't be left entirely in the dark. Where was I? Yeah, animation. We gotta animate something. And yeah, already some wonderful people in the chat. Ivan already realized, yeah, we are using Clip Studio Paint. Yeah. So the interesting thing, well, let's say hello to Oreo first. Hello, Tingible. Hello, Darren. Nice to see you all here. Yeah, so software, of course, we'll be talking a little bit about software. I think that's unavoidable if we are working in one and working in one that I don't have that much experience of, but I really want to dive into it deeper. But the reason why I can say like, hey, let's animate in a software that I'm not that deep into yet is also because the basics are the same everywhere. You basically need a software with a timeline where you can place drawings on certain frames in the timeline, and that's pretty much it. It's nice if you know how to work the brushes. It's nice if you know the quirks of a software about how selecting stuff works. But placing drawings on the timeline, that is essentially what animation is about. Maybe you should know how to activate onion skin and maybe a little bit how to work the layers in the software, but that's pretty much it. It can help, of course, to know keyboard shortcuts and stuff like that. And here, Clip Studio Paint leaves us a little bit in the dark because by default, no keyboard shortcuts for the animation functions are set, which at first I thought was really weird and annoying. But then I actually took the time to add the keyboard shortcuts that I usually need, stuff like create a new frame, go forward a frame, create a new drawing, go forward a frame, and stuff like that. And I realized I could do it a little bit how I have the shortcuts in OpenToons, so that I won't be completely thrown off going into this newish software. You've seen me before working in Clip Studio Paint. We've done the model sheet that we're working on for the project that I'm doing with JK. We've done that, but yeah. I feel like I'm already talking far too much. Let's jump into the animation. Hello, McCoy. Nice to see you. McCoy Buck has a fantastic channel, fantastic YouTube channel about Moho, which is also a fantastic piece of software for especially if you do rigged animation, if you have 2D rigs that you are deforming so that you don't have to draw every single frame. And he's really awesome at explaining those complex rigging topics. So go check out his channel if you're interested in Moho and 2D puppet deformation rigs and stuff like that. Hello, Fabian. Nice to see you. All right. So, flour sack. So, this is one of the 51 animation exercises, a flour sack kicking a ball. And before we jump into this, we have to do a little bit of research. And I like to do that for like anything I animate. We need to think a little bit more about what this thing is that we're actually animating. And, research and preparation can look all sorts of different for different kinds of animation that you're doing. So for the flour sack, before we even dive into the motion, I would say we do. Oh, it's not my keyboard shortcuts. Talking about having set up keyboard shortcut. Oh, it's just N. Okay, I set up the keyboard shortcuts and then I immediately forgot them again. That's starting wonderfully. So you need to have a little bit of preparation time before you can jump into an animation. And in case of the flour sack, let's think a little bit about what we are animating here. And some of you might be wondering, why are we animating a flour sack? Like, what is so interesting about a flour sack? And I feel like the flour sack, how we animate it, namely being like, I think nowadays you still have like these big industrial sacks, like, something like this you would probably see in like in like a hardware store, or if you have like soil or something, like a sack filled with soil. But way back when, in the 1920s, 1930s, they also had like flour sacks as household items. So the Disney animators, they would have like these sacks, these brown beige colored from this like rough cloth material, which look a little bit cuter, like those soil sacks that we have at in hardware stores nowadays, or like in an industry you might have big flour sacks and stuff like that. But you would also have small flour sacks back in the time of the Disney studios. And the reason why they chose a flour sack as an animation exercise, as a test character for when you start to learn animation, is because you can do all kinds of cool stuff with this without things getting too complicated. For example, you could simplify the shape, and that's kind of also the interesting part is, sometimes when you think about mannequinization and divide stuff into shapes, you're very tempted to be like, okay, so we have a block here, and on this block, I put another block. And the problem with the flour sack is it's round everywhere. So you can't just put like a block on top of a block, or you can't just put a block and then like a sphere on it, and then put the material over it or something like that. The problem is that all shapes of the flour sack, they're kinda squares, they kinda spheres, but not really. They have like rounded edges. So it gets you thinking about these organic shapes that are a little bit, organic and round and fluffy, but you still need to think about the front side, the side plane, a top side, and stuff like that, which gets you thinking three-dimensionally without taking strong geometrical hard shapes that don't appear in nature. In human anatomy, you don't have perfect brick blocks that your character is made of. So the flour sack really gets you thinking about these kinds of very roundish, very soft organic shapes, while still needing to come up with a way how to construct these properly. So the character design of the flour sack in itself is already a very good exercises to tackle these organic shapes. Let's do one more page here. The other cool thing is that the flour sack is divided in at least two big shapes. So you have that shape where all the flour collected in. Like if you have a flour sack, it won't be filled to the brim with flour. There will be, most of it will like flow down to the bottom and spread out to the. What kind of arrow is that? What was I doing there? So the flour would go down because of gravity and spread out to the sides, and then you would have this a little bit lighter shape up there, where depending on how full the flour sack is, it might not be, there might not be a lot of flour in it. And then there's also, because you have two shapes, you can do all kinds of cool stuff, like twist and bend the flour sack in all kinds of cool ways. So if we have this block, we can take the other block, which like this is the, let's mark the front plane with like a front line. What I can do now is I can rotate the top shape here and get a twist. So you have this kind of going there. And you would see more of the side plane here as you twist the flour sack. And, maybe you have that little ear of the sack coming out there. And here we can give the flour sack a nice little booty. And, we can take this a lot further. We can have the block almost stationary, and we can take that all the way to here, that we see this is the front side going to the back side. So what we're doing here is kind of like this. And then we have this twist here. And the interesting thing about twists is we can also think about the overlaps. See this line here? It's going over the other shape, over the shape that is under here. Here. We have this shape on top of this one. This is why this is in front of it. We have that one ear coming out of here, and and this way we have a twist, and you can twist in all kinds of other directions too. So let's say we have hi Sanyog. We have maybe the base shape down here, and now the other shape bend forward like this, and now we can see a lot of the top shape. We have it bent over like that, and here we once again have the case that that line here of the top shape is coming on top of the bottom shape. You see that? And here we see those little ears of our flour sack taking a little bow. Now, we could also have the opposite case. We could have a flour sack that, maybe it's leaning against a wall. Later, Dylan. And, maybe it's leaning back. So if we could see inside of the flour sack, we would see that underside of it. And that would give you maybe even a version where now that back shape, you see that line here, that bottom shape is now on top of the other one because the top shape slid behind the flower sac. And this is basically how the human torso and hip works. If you have a hip, you know, like here, this would be the hip with the legs plugged into it. Then you would have a one part like this, and you could have the whole chest area. Let's start with the top plane. I think that's easier to draw. Now we have that person leaning forward, and you could construct bends and twists and all kinds of stuff very similar in a way how you would construct that for the flower sac. So what we've been doing up until now is making us familiar with the model sheet. And that is something that you need to do for every character. You know, if you are working for production and you're being tasked with I don't know, animating a Disney character, you need to study that character first. You need to see how exactly does it work, what shape do the animators use to construct the character with, and this is kind of a little bit like we've been doing here, in a much less complex version. So that would be the first phase. Make yourself familiar with the model and how and why things work in detail. By the way, if you have any questions at any point during the live stream, just feel free to write in the chat anything that pops into your mind. And of course, also later, if you're watching the recording, you can just write a comment. Now, the next step. Let's maybe make a little list here. So what are all the things that we have to do? Learning model sheet is kind of what we've been doing up until now. And a little bit also, like, you know, studying reference, that is important as well. Studying reference. So now that we have done that, we're doing thumbnails. Thumbnails. And for thumbnails, we're going to think about how does our animation even look? What are we doing here? So our task is a flower sac kicking a ball. So at the minimum, and you know, thumbnails should be small. I maybe make them a little bit bigger so you can see them. So we know we have a ball. That's a given. Now, for that ball, we could think about how complex do we want to do it? Do we want to put like little soccer ball shapes on it? You know, I'm from Germany, so I am kind of obligated to make soccer balls, right? Or basketball or whatever. You know, like there are all kinds of different balls that it could be. To make things simple, I'm just gonna have a ball with like those sphere lines, so we really know, okay, this is a sphere. We have this a little bit of an indication of contact shadow, maybe, and that's all going to be that's going to be all the development we do for the ball model. Now, for the flower sac itself, we kind of need to decide on a model, like how big exactly are the two parts of the flower sac. So, but maybe we do that at the end when we have studied this, what we want to do a little bit more. There's also the question of perspective. You know, if I It depends on where we put the camera. If we put the camera above the flour sack, which kind of makes sense because, you know, a small flour sack, as it would be in a 1930s household, would be small. If we were on a human eye level, we would be looking down on them. So they would be constructed like that. Could see the top side of the two shapes, right? So it would be more like this. And now we can really see that top fold, you know, as it goes over the bottom one. I mean, maybe like this. And it would be more like that, maybe. Or if we say like, okay, we are maybe if we think like the flower sack's eyes are here, one thing we could do is put the camera on eye level, which is like happening here. So basically, the horizon line is always on the height of where the camera is. And you know, if we if we are human and we look down on a flower sack, the horizon line is somewhere up there, so we see the top of the flower sack. If it's eye level, we see neither the top nor the bottom of the top shape, but we would see a little bit of the top of the bottom shape. Oh, wait, is that correct? Yeah, this is correct. Because, you know, above the horizon, you would see the underside. You know, that would be another choice that we have. I don't know why we would make that one, but we could put the camera on the floor. And if we put the camera on the floor, our flower sack, we would see, well, we can't really see the underside of that shape, but we would see the underside of this one, and we would sort of like look up at the flower sack, and it would look gigantic, which kind of, you know, doesn't communicate that it is a flower sack. So I think we're gonna probably choose this perspective. So what I'm doing here is I'm kind of mixing character design a little bit with thumbnailing for the animation process, but you know, both processes need thumbnailing. So if you develop a character design, you design many different variations of your character, you know, maybe many different flower sack shapes. Let's undo my undoing. So, you know, for character design, we could say like, okay, what if we had like a very wide first shape and a very tiny second shape? You know, how would that look? You know, a little chubby flower sack here. And, you know, you would you would try different things, and then eventually you land on the one that you use. Same with storyboarding. When you're thinking about perspective, you're trying different perspectives and then choose the one that you think works. And now what we also want to develop is the animation poses. So if we have that ball, which we also kind of see the top side, so maybe let's draw a little bit top of the sphere. So the most important shape will obviously be the one where he's kicking the ball. And I think that has two interesting, very defining moments. One of the very defining moments is how our little flower sack goes into anticipation for the kick, and you know what sort of posing we're gonna use for that. So maybe like this. We're gonna do a lot more like that because, you know, this is just the first thing that we're doing here right now. Yeah, very weak post. So this is one of the reasons why we're doing thumbnailing and not immediately jump into animating, because that pose is okay. it does kind of communicate what we want to communicate. By the way, that's another great thing. You kind of do not have a lot of the things that allow you to cheat. Like with stick figures, it's very easy to get a shape that is communicating. Like I feel like a stick man, we would have very quickly communicating a kick. But how do you do the same for a flour sack? That's also a very interesting challenge for this one. So that pose is super weak. We see that we have a line of action here that we might want to exaggerate. So maybe we have that bottom shape here, like really leaning into that one and getting ready for the kick here. Taking a little bit from the stickman, maybe we could do this a little bit. Like there is this danger of the flour sack looking a little bit too much like a chicken, like getting like these little wings here. And I feel like one way to get a little bit more out of this chicken look is if you see it more as like, if you look at the top of the flour sack, it's probably more of a triangle. Like I don't know exactly how these flour sacks were back then, but I think it's kind of more like this. You have like these triangles where not as much flour is running into. So maybe instead of drawing them like these chicken legs or wings, maybe we can do something that looks more like a paper fold. So I think that, for example, looks more like a flour sack. Now here I find it very interesting that there we should be clearly seeing a twist. You see how that fold is over the other one? Like that is really nice. I like that one. Cool. Like I think this is gonna be pretty nice. One other thing that I want to pay attention to, I don't want to set the flour sack on a tightrope horizon and have the ball like just right in front of him. I want to have a little bit of perspective here. And usually horizons are not right in front of your characters. They are, as I said, on the eye level where the camera is, on the height of the camera. So that would be more like here. And the ball, I think, is more interesting if we have that in front of him. If we have like something like a 1-point perspective going on, and we actually have like a 3D space. I think that could be a lot more interesting for our animation and gives us, once again, an extra challenge for this construction of the flour sack. I do have music, by the way. I totally forgot to activate it. Should I put a little bit of music? What do you guys think? Or would that be difficult with concentration? I can put it on very quietly. Let me know if that is distracting or if that is okay. So, oh, that's a little bit louder. Okay. Or maybe we do music for when I'm done with explaining and we're more like in the working part. But yeah, let me know how that works. Sometimes it helps a little bit to, stay with it, because I know this can be quite a lot to think about at once. And then when you drift away with thoughts, the music sometimes can pull you back in. So, then I'm kind of happy with this post now, but thumbnailing, you should probably do a bunch of different variations. So let's do a new drawing, and we're gonna be thinking about more ways to do the anticipation. Okay, so let's kind of work with what we already have. Line of action, very strongly. I think kind of something that I always want to do is if there is a part of our flower sack close to the ground, I kind of want to pull all the flour into it. So the shapes are not squares, they kind of get a little bit lopsided. And maybe we want to have the flower sack bend its little head a little bit away. Just see how that looks. So we have like a little bit of a twist. Might be a little bit too big, our flower sack. Now we see the ears of the flower sack kind of sort of from the back. And we would have this part, this little leg, all the way up in the air, which I think is kind of cute. Hello, Hilly. Nice to see you. Hi, Pinky Purples. Nice to see you. Welcome, welcome. I wonder, you know, we've always tried bending him back like that. So what about if he is looking at the... How would it look like if he's looking at the ball, like bending down while he does the anticipation? Don't even know how that would look. Huh. I mean, maybe there's something there. I mean, this is certainly not it. But maybe there's something there. So we're basically going more into a frontal front view. Sometimes it can also be helpful to go a little bit away from this construction site. You know, back in when we do the actual animation, we can put more thought on construction, but maybe we are like, okay, so let's feel it out more. Okay, we have like all this weight in that one leg, and then we have that other leg up in the air, and what do we do with this one? Do we want to try to bend them over? Maybe like this, and see where that gets us. Kind of a little bit weak of a curve. Let's do the line of action first and really think about how we do that. Oh, look at this one. That is interesting because the back goes so high. Maybe that is what we were looking for. If we have like the eyes here and we have like that volume here, and then we have that other leg all up in the air. Maybe that's kind of sort of what we're looking for. Let's do that a little bit more careful. Yes, Hilly, we are in Clip Studio Paint. I finally took the time to put in my animation shortcuts. So give him a little booty here. Lift that up, put that down. Okay, I'm not sure I like the lean forward, so let's put that away for now. Let's go with a more or less sideways kind of thing. Let's have that here and put that one all up in the air. I don't think we're making any more progress with this, so I kind of want to leave it at that now. I do like the air. I do like the leg all the way up in the air. That's kind of nice. So let's keep it like that for now. Now, the other big pose, I think, would be after the kick, or when he makes contact with the ball. And for that, we also need to think a little bit about it more acting-wise. Like, what do we actually want happen. So we need to think about what kind of character this one actually is. I mean, he looks like a clumsy little bumbly flour sack, but maybe he's a pro soccer player. We don't know. So I think a favorite animation, a favorite choice for this flour sack is that he like falls over while he kicks, which is kind of cute and kind of fits the like bumbly nature of the ball, of the flour sack. So you know, he kind of topples over to the back. Maybe he's twisted. Like maybe if this is his front side, it's actually going to the back and it's coming over like that. But maybe he's like really good, you know, maybe he's like a pro little soccer player. We also need to pay attention. Okay, so if this is his right foot, then when he kicks, it came in front. So if we give it a color, we need to pay attention that now we're seeing his backside, you know. He did like a twist around. So yeah, that I think I did it the other way around. So if we track his side, it's going like that. And we have like a little twist here, which is kind of cute because that is something that we could practice with the flour sack. And he also gets this nice booty here if we do that with this lower shape. So that might be something that we want to do. I don't think I want to do the cliche thing of having the flour sack fall over. Maybe he's a little bit more experienced and he actually made a goal. And I think what could be very nice is to have him celebrating a little bit, you know. Maybe after he kicked the ball, he's like looking forward. So I still get my forward lean that I liked so much. How could that look? You know, maybe forward lean, and he's like doing a little holding on. Like, you never know if you want to have the little corners to be ears, or maybe you want them to be little arms. I really like how they do that in Aladdin with the carpet. Like, that's an awesome reference if you want to have some fun and crazy idea what you can do with the corners of the flour sack. The carpet, the magic carpet, the flying carpet in Aladdin is a lot of fun. A very fun reference. So, you know, I think the carpet does stuff like, you know, thinking and scratching his head and stuff like that. And kind of can do that with the flour sack too. Again, you need to always make sure that you are not making it look like wings of a shaved bird, where you plucked all the feathers. But yeah, I think you can do really cool stuff with the flour sack. One thing that I also think is absolutely adorable with the flour sack is if you have him sit down and you fold like his sides up to become little feet. That's kind of cute. So where were we? Hello, Shadow. Nice to see you. So we want to have him look at the ball that he just kicked, and you know, maybe he's waiting for it to hit. Maybe he's still balancing. One thing that could also be interesting, like if instead of like falling over, he would do like a couple steps back, and then when he hits a goal with the ball that he just kicked, I think we can give him a nice stretchy celebration pose where he like jumps in the air. But maybe I'm already making it too complicated. I just, it's a lot of fun coming up with little drawings that communicate something for our little flower sack guy. So we did thumbnails, and we kind of figured out a couple poses that we want to use. I think for this exercises we did an okay amount of thumbnailing. You can never do enough thumbnailing. It's always like the more you prepare in thumbnails and think about in thumbnails about your animation, the better your animation is going to be. But this is a live stream, and for the sake of getting something done today, let's say we did that. We did thumbnails, we did model sheet, we did studying reference. So next up, I'm gonna design the storytelling keys, and for any of these steps of these keyframe designs, storytelling keys, for any of these keyframe designs, we can, go back to thumbnailing, say like either we have enough thumbnails already or we still wanna think about more for every single key. So I would actually create the animation layer now that we are using to put our animation in. We're gonna create a vector layer just because I like it. I make this one invisible, and let's activate the first. I just put a drawing on frame 1. You can do that in any animation software. You're going to see that this is Clip Studio Paint, but this has nothing to do with how I animate and why I animate the way that I animate. Nothing that you can do in this, or nothing that we will use today in this software is special or constrained to this software. You can do what we're doing right now in any animation software. OpenToons is a good free option. If you have Photoshop or Adobe Animate, you can animate in that. You need a timeline, and we just placed a drawing on frame 1. So, and this one, we actually haven't, let's start with a pose that we have defined. Let's start with the kick. No, actually... No, let's start with a pose that we haven't defined, so you can see that we have to go back to thumbnailing. Let's start with a pose. So in the thumbnailing that we did so far, we were thinking a lot about, okay, how does the kick actually look before and after? But what we didn't think about is how does the flower sack look before the kick? And now we realize that our thumbnails weren't sufficient, and we should go back to thumbnailing and think about how this whole scene starts. And I like this, that we're forced to think about this, because this is a chance to make this more interesting. So the generic thing would be, we have the ball right here, we have the flower sack made out of segment 1 and segment 2. And what I'm doing right now is I have them like in a very like almost T-pose kind of. If you don't know, T-pose is when you load a 3D rig. That's kind of like the position that the rig comes in. Like, this is nothing. This does not communicate anything. So what we could do is think a little bit more about how is our flower sack feeling. Is he nervous about this kick? Is he super motivated? Is he super sure of himself? So I don't know. What do you guys think in the chat? What would be fun for our flower sack? How is he approaching this ball? Is he a soccer pro? Was he walking by and somebody told him to kick back the ball? Like, what are the stakes here that our little flower sack has? maybe he was also kind of examining the ball. You see, I always want to get the flour sack bending forward in there, because I think it can give you some interesting folds and wrinkles on the sack, and have his little booty come out. So yeah, he could be looking at the ball. He could be looking at where he's supposed to kick it to. Could be, off to the side. That might be fun. McCoy Buck is suggesting, I think a cool one would be hesitant to kick it, kind of like unsure he can. Yeah, I mean, he does look like a little bumbly, not so sure of himself little guy. So I really think that could be fun. I'm constantly changing the position of the ball, There is a difference. We could put the ball here. We could put the ball right in front of him, which would make it easier to kick and easier to animate. Because, if you put it too far away, he's going to have to make a step towards it, which is going to, this has entirely its own challenges. So how could an unsure flour sack look? So, let's think about the opposite first, because I think that's a little bit more direct. If we say like, okay, the flour sack is super sure of himself, he could be like, leaning back, his chest all puffed up. He's like super like, ha, I'm gonna do it. That could be like kind of like the opposite of it. And hesitance, I feel like, looks a lot more stuck together, a lot more fallen together. Like there's not a lot of like tension in him. Like here, this is tension. There's like, this line running through him, and here this is kind of like this droopy. I think is a good word for it. And that could also be like, even details like there's tension in his feet in this one, and here's just flop, flat on the ground. Like that can make all the difference. All the difference for it. I don't want to spend a lot of time on like doing a big pre-animation. I saw some people who did this exercise doing that, where they had like this whole animation leading up to it, which I thought is very fun. Like if you feel motivated to do that, if you have the time to do that, any animation posing and work that you can do is great. And if you're having fun with it, even better. So, but I don't want to spend too much of this live stream coming up with things right now. So I'm going to keep it a little bit more simple today. Maybe in the future, we're going to have more longer live streams where I have a little bit more time for that. So for now, I'm going to keep him close to the ball, which is kind of like, a little bit a shame that he's covering up that one leg there, the ball. Maybe this could work if we just cut into the tip there. Okay, and with this little bit of additional thumbnailing, I feel better to go into that rough of the animation for the storytelling key. So let's do that. The ball doesn't necessarily need to be on the same layer. We can just add a new layer, new animation folder. And we're gonna add another layer. And oh, we need to activate that, put that frame there. And maybe we have a little bit of space so we can actually see the ball flying somewhere. You know, if we have that 3D space that is kind of like coming from here, I think it could be really fun to have that ball, and give it a little bit of context shadow here. That is nice. And you know, why not have a little bit of a background layer where we do some of the perspective grid, because I think that could be important to define a little bit of the distance. What did we say where we wanted the horizon? We can draw that later. We can draw the horizon after we draw on our flower. Well, I guess kind of would be the wrong way around. Let's say the horizon is here. Then, you know, you would basically let's redo that. Oops. Then you could pick a point there in the infinite space. And be like, okay. And this would be very far away. If you can see the horizon all that far back, like, don't confuse it with the corner of a room. Like, a corner of a room would be kind of like, you know, here. This is kind of where like a corner of a room would be. And you go to another room and stuff like that. The horizon is very far away. All right. Okay. No. We said we wanted the Okay, so let's maybe work with the top shape. I always try to start my 3D shapes from the shape that is the easiest to define. And in this case, with the top half of that first shape, we kind of define that belly volume of the flower sac. And I think that could be quite nice. We should also not forget how wide the surface touching the ground of our flower sac actually is. You know, we have like this whole area here. I feel like the flower sac got a little bit too big. Let's make a smaller one. Maybe, you know, sometimes it's easier to just rough it out with like, okay, this is approximately where things go, and then kind of think about more about the shapes, how they actually going to look. And I'm approaching the part of the project where this thing looks really alien to me. Like, There's just something about if you draw a thing too many times, it starts to become a little bit odd. Okay, I don't like the size of that top volume, so let's make that a little bit smaller, because I think that's going to make him cuter. And it also defines how, you know, there's some flower that already run all the way down. And, you know, we need to find a nice little lovable shape. And I feel like this is far too neutral. But you know what? This is actually a good model sheet. If we say like, okay, we are kind of happy with the basic proportions of him like that. Maybe make him even a little more chubby here. Like we say like, this is the size of the top and the bottom shape. I'm going to save this on a separate layer. I'm going to grab this and I'm going to put a layer down here. I'm going to call it model sheet, so we can always refer back to this one. I'm going to make it a little bit transparent, and I'm going to erase that flower sack again. All right. Okay, let's draw those, remove those other lines from the model sheet that we don't want to have in there. Okay. All right. So now we always have that one available. Okay. Did we never put the ball on an extra layer? So this would be the layer for the ball. This would be the layer for the flower sack. Flower sack. Naming layers, super important. And this is just our scribble layer. Okay, come here. There we go. Delete this one, and then we have our ball. You know what? Let's just redraw that part so we don't have a foot lingering there. I could have just drawn the entire thing again, I guess. Little dented ball. Okay. Whew. All right, so the flower sack that we're seeing right now is our model flower sack. And model sheets like this are pretty cool because we can say like, okay, I want that volume here, you know, that should pretty much be the model sheet volume. So the cool thing is that I can just more or less trace it, trying to give it a little bit more definition because, you know, we're not that thorough here. But then we could modify that model sheet and be like, okay, we have that lean forward here. And you know what? Let's actually play a little bit with like a head tilt. I always like tilts because I feel like they can communicate so much. So let's see how that looks. Yeah, that's kind of cute. And it gives him a nice little belly here. Gives him a fold over the top, and we can make him a little bit unsure, which fits with the personality that we wanted to give him. Okay. Let's switch off the model sheet and see what maybe more we maybe want to refine. I do like to give him like a little bit of like folds and stuff. I think that could be quite nice. Okay. Alrighty. So this is our first storytelling key. Let's write it in a corner for key 1. And next up, we're gonna do key 2. Let's already do the anticipation. I think that could be nice. We don't want to spend too much time on like a pre-animation. Hey Eidolon, welcome. So let's have a look again at our little scribbles and what we were doing back then. So I like that one. I like the lean forward ones. So let's do one like that. So back on our drawing layer. And here let's activate onion skin, which allows us to see the previous drawing shining through. But yeah, we're mostly going to rely on that for positioning. So we need to think a little bit about body mechanics here. And body mechanics in this case being balancing and weight distribution. So here, the weight is fairly distributed over the entire surface that the flour sack is on. If we lift that off the ground, that leg off the ground, we can't just do this. Because if you just would it lift up like that, it would immediately fall back down. So what we have to do is we have to shift force on this leg, so it frees up the other one. It frees up the other foot to be up in the air, because we're putting all our weight, which was previously distributed to both legs, we're going to put all the weight on the left leg. And for flour sack, this will mean that all the flour will dump into that side of the flour sack, So we would probably take that shape. You know what? The ball is kind of covering up the most interesting part. We really need to rethink that positioning. So, and I do like to kind of make the foot of the flour sack more leg-like, in that we have like almost like, this would kind of get us back into like chicken wing territory. But I like this fold, this one that you would get if you had like a leg here. I kind of want to keep that. So whatever we do now with that bottom shape, and as I said, I do like to thin it out a little bit towards the top, putting the flour into that foot. So this one can go up in the air. We want to have like a nice little nice little arc here. The other thing is, you know, we could, what you can work with something like this. So the average weight needs to be on top of that foot. And there are two ways to move the average weight. You could try that all your weight is on top. You know, all your weight is on top of that foot. So, you know, maybe hold that here. But the other thing you can try is to distribute the weight evenly. That's why we can, you know, spread out when we stand on one leg, because you know, you put a little bit of your weight, or, you know, you put half your weight in that direction, half your weight in this direction, then you can be splayed out and still be balanced, because on average, the average of your weight is here in the middle. So I think we have a case where we don't need to balance everything on top of that center of gravity, but we can shift him over a little bit and, you know, maybe do what I already tried and kind of failed of him being bent back a little bit. I kind of want to have another go at that and see how that could look. Just because I'm curious. I mean, it looks a little bit too motivated for, you know, what he was doing before. I do kind of like it, though. It's kind of nice. His volumes shrink a little bit. So this is, again, where that model sheet could come in handy. And what we could do with the model sheet is we could take it and oops, that is the wrong one. I wanted the model sheet here. And we could take it and kind of put the volumes more where we had them before. Now, this could make your animation too stiff if you're doing this too much, but it could help you to maintain volumes. And you see there's kind of a lot of volume missing for that bottom shape. Now that we have that model sheet there, let's go back to our flour sack. Maybe let's redraw it just to see, to show you what I mean. So we have that foot kind of needs to stay planted, but then we have that volume that we need to keep, and maybe we can play with that a little bit. Like, I still want it to feel like a little bit of the flour has gone into the lower parts of him. Now, let's see how that looks. Sometimes it can be a little bit messy if you have too many lines going on, you know. I do like that he kind of like gets a little bit like, okay, if I have to do this, like kind of like I commit, which, you know, I appreciate the effort, little guy. So let's get our shapes a little bit more clean here. You can see into that part of the flour sack. You can see that side of him. I'm not quite content with that shape back here. Now, you might be thinking, hey, you're putting a lot of time into these poses, but these are our defining key poses, so I kind of have to, I kind of have to put a lot of effort into those. And I think I really do want to refine that side plane of that shape a bit. All right. Okay. So let's put in the front line because I think that is super strong. And now we kind of do have, that center of gravity nice on top of that, small base of support. Maybe we could push it even a little bit more. Pushing things, always a nice thing to do if you can. Can we rotate him? Yeah, we can. I don't want to cut into the horizon. Like, if we cut into the horizon, I would do like a lot over the horizon. But, since we're just down here, I would kind of keep it like that. Yeah. Now, let's make sure that foot lines up. This is something where onion skin is really useful because you really want to, if you have contact with the floor, you want to make sure that the contact with the floor stays really solid. It can grow a little bit, like the foot can grow a little bit because it's getting more mass into it. I kind of also sometimes like to do things like, that could look kind of nice to like cut into that line and give it a little bit more of like a hip. Okay, that is nice. All right, so technically this is not a storytelling key. I mean, it kind of is, because in our story of how he kicks the ball, it's kind of important how he does that, but this is technically an extreme. And to be specific, it's actually the anticipation. So extremes are the motions right before a change in direction. And anticipations, extremes can be storytelling keys. If the way how you do these grand preparations or catching motions is important for your story, then those can be a storytelling key as well. Let's write that down for now. So we have storytelling keys, we have extremes. This is before a change in direction occurs. Change in direction. And that makes sense. If you have like a ball that is being thrown, imagine you're going back first and then you throw it. This is the anticipation. There's a change in direction. You're going to that side and then you go to the other side and then you throw it into that direction. Bella says, this is perfect timing as I'm creating a demo reel for animation. That's great. Good luck with that. Yeah. Wonderful. Okay, so let's jump back into this animation. We have our key, we have our anticipation. Now, if we're very strict, I think it just makes sense to go through this more or less chronological. So what we would have now would be that other post that we already thought about, like how does the kick actually look? That would be an overshoot, which is also an extreme. Sometimes I try to be a little bit more orderly and like get only the storytelling keys first, but since this is basically, you know, this is the animation, this is what we're doing, so we need the overshoot as part of the story that we're telling here. Now, can't hurt to look back at our thumbnails. Let's see what we did in the thumbnail to do this. I like that twisted version that we did down here. So let's do that. Let's do that. And for that, we're also going to need onion skin. So this is coming forward. So let's think about it. Let's say we have that kick. Or let's put it a little bit up in the air. And now, traditionally, this foot would not have moved unless this was like a lot of force. So I think it's fair to like do it like that and really think about what is happening with the rest of our guy. So this side twisted, which is cool. This is gonna look really cool because, you know, this one is facing to the right, and when we're done with our motion, it's facing to the left. For the rest of the body, I want to be a little bit more conservative. But, you know, there are also a couple ways that I could go. Like, maybe he's throwing like the front part of him to balance. He's throwing it forward. You know, that could be fun. Or, which is kind of what we showed, to keep the balance and the the center of gravity above that base of support down here. Maybe he's like throwing this little head element a little further back, which would be kind of cute, and it would also mean that he is twisted. So if this is his backside, this is like going back here. This is front side. Well, actually, you know, I think to see the twist, one thing that could really help us there is to look at the side of him. So if we do that, we get like this little side plane here. And the twist lines that we would see on his body are probably from here, from this side. Now, I wonder if we done a little bit of a stiff pose here because we are thinking about it too much. But I think it could work. To check that, we always can go back to flipping. So, I kind of like that his, the position after the kick is kind of weaker than before. Like his anticipation is like, I'm gonna put my all into this, and his actual kick is more like, oh no. Like, I kind of just maybe didn't do as well, which I think is really, really cute. Let's see if we can push that that curve a little bit more. That tilt. Alrighty. Again, we want to make sure that, you know, we have sufficient volume down here. Okay. Okay, the arc looks a little bit flat, which is because we don't have an arc technically, you know. From here to here is a straight line of the foot. So, you know, it doesn't look very archy at the moment. It's because there's important stuff still missing. So this is probably going to be either key 2 or an overshoot. Let's have this as key 2. And then key 3 would be how does he actually look after this whole thing. So for that, I'm going to pay special attention once again to the model sheet, because this is kind of the drawing that defines how our flower sack looks. Let's also switch on onion skin. Can I do onion skin for all layers? Not sure if I can do that. Oh, by the way, if you're using if you're using Clip Studio Paint for one of the first times, make sure you have play in real time checked and prefer speed, because otherwise later when you play your animation, you're not going to get realistic 24 frames per second. It will slow it down. If you have it to prefer quality or play all frames, it will try to render all frames and not drop frames if your computer can't handle it. So model sheet, we want to position that kind of where it needs to be. The right foot is probably still going to be where it is, but this is not a walking exercise. So we're going to have him stand here, maybe tilted forward a little bit. Maybe that helps us to check the volumes against this model sheet. Okay, I'm gonna put my finger on the screen here where the foot is, and I'm gonna slide the model sheet down there to match that position here. I do that a lot, marking stuff with the finger on the screen. I have fingerprints all over my Cintiq, which is, oh boy, a shame for this expensive hardware. But yeah, this is kind of what I want as an orientation. Now, we might want to keep the, like, we're only keeping this as a reference to make sure that the volumes are roughly the same. So we have a couple options here. Because he's twisted away, like right now we're seeing his bum. You know, we're seeing his bum. We could twist him back. And then the question is, how much do we twist him back? Do we... Now, if he would actually step over there, he would then face us with his back. We don't want to do that, so maybe that model sheet is not that helpful. But what we could do is we could have him take a step forward and, you know, be in like kind of this sideways position, and then maybe twist forward more. Maybe do that lean that we talked about to look how he did. That is an option. We could have him rotate over and have him be back here. That would be more like that, you know, with that foot here and this foot here. I do kind of like the idea of him just dropping down though from that kick position, maybe just a little bit back. So let's make sure we match this volume down here. And he reaches. Or maybe in a nice little arc here. That could be nice. And we kind of do not see that foot anymore. And then we have him leaned forward. I'm taking this model sheet as a reference. Hilly says, still wrapping my head around the CSP timeline, but getting there. Yeah, it is a little bit confusing in the beginning. So if this is the side, we still have a twist here. Maybe we have like a lean forward, because we had like, you know, this inverted shape. And now I think it would be cool to have, we have that shape back. Now I think it would be cool to have like a lean forward. And have him like a little curious tilt. I love head tilts. But yeah, Hilly, if you have any questions, let me know. Maybe I can already answer them. Fairly new to Clip Studio Paint 2, but yeah. And maybe we have our little flower ears poking through. And of course, we need to keep the twist. Okay, let's see how that looks with all these, without all these confusing lines going on. So we have whoop, plump, whoop, plump. I like the physical presence that the flower sack has, because we constructed it with all these shapes. I do kind of want to fall back to a more neutral one. So let's put this frame aside and try again. This time I want to do a more neutral position. How do I get the options? Wasn't there something with right click? Where are the onion skin options? No, light table is something else, right? Because I think there was a way to change some settings on this. Anyway, another cool way is the light table in Clip Studio Paint. So what we could do is we could actually put, we are on frame 3. We're gonna lock that as our editing target, and we can, I think, put frame 3 into it. And then we see frame 3 because we put it into the light table. And now... Oh, yeah, I need to set 3A as the editing table target. Put that in there. Oh. Now it works. I switched to a white color. Okay, so now we could come back to more of a neutral pose, and then we really need to think about how we actually get there. But I think we can figure it out. So we would have our shape here that we are getting, that cute little flower booty. And have him look forward. I wonder if now we could tilt it like that to give it this extra curious, like, you know, this like almost puppy head tilt. And have the sides more like ears. You know, maybe that could work. So, switching off the light table. Boop, boop, boop. Boop, boop, boop. Yeah, I think this is coming along. Okay, I would say we're making a quick break here. But before we do, I just want to mention, in case you don't know, you can support us if you want on patreon.com/animatorisland. The more supporters I have, the more time I can make for live streams like this and make tutorials, take some time aside to make tutorials. But there's also a really cool tier that we have. So we have the normal supporters tier, and then we have the higher valued group mentoring tier. If you join in the group mentoring tier, you can be there every single month in a group mentoring session where you can submit your project, whatever you're currently working on, your work in progress animation, a storyboard, whatever it is that you're currently working on creatively, and I can give you feedback, draw over it, give you tips and tricks on how to improve not only that piece of work, but how to level up your skills in general. So that is the group mentoring that you can join on patreon.com/animatorisland. And yeah, we're going to do a quick break and then continue with this animation. So let's just switch that back on. I think I have a little break thing. There we go. Short break. We'll be right back and dive into some more animation workflow. See you then. Okay, welcome back. We're going to do more animating now. Let's have a look at what we already have. We have our little droopy flower sack going boom, plop. And I think that's pretty cute. Whoop, whoop, plump. Such a cute little guy. Okay, now, then let's get rid of this frame because we actually really do not need it anymore. Sometimes it's good to have selected layers only. Would it delete on all layers? Oh, it would delete on all layers. No, I only want to delete this one. Oh, delete frame deletes the entire frame. That makes sense. And delete just deletes the drawing. Okay, that's good to know. Let's name. And it's still here. That's kind of cool. So let's just give it a name for old for now. And name this one 4. So that's always nice if you don't delete a frame completely. Like, you know, you might want to bring it back for whatever reason. So it's good to have that here. So this is definitely key number 3. Key 3. Now, key 1, anticipation, key 2, key 3. So let's circle those so it's clear what they are. So, anticipation, overshoot, going down. Now, if we look at our little checklist, we are still in the territory of extremes. There might be some extremes that we haven't defined yet, and we still need to define them. So, what extremes have we missed? So, this one we got pretty much covered. I do wonder, though, if we should have a little anticipation for him going out of this pose. And I think this actually could be a very interesting anticipation. Let's add a frame here, and ha! I made a keyboard shortcut for this. I think, was it Control Dot? No, Control Dot just gives me the next and previous frame. Okay, also very important. Was it Shift Dot? Yeah, it was Shift Dot. Insert frame. We just want one frame, and it's going to do that on all layers, I'm afraid. So maybe I just mark it all and move them over. So I have between 1 and 2, between key 1 and this super important anticipation, I have now a space where I can put another drawing. So let's do that real quick. And this drawing is going to be our anticipation for the flower sack getting up. Let's see what the onion skin is saying here. So we have him fall forward a little bit. That. And now we could be a little bit creative. Like the boring way to do an anticipation for this one would to just take all the lines and shift them lower. You know, this line would be here, this line would be here, this line would be here, this other line here would be here. Like, you know, that would be a very boring way to construct an anticipation for this one. You can, by the way, test this pretty early, like with just a couple lines. You can kind of already, if we switch off onion skin, you can kind of already go whoop. You can kind of already like feel how it would feel to go there. So maybe we can make it a little bit more interesting by putting like a little bit of a twist here. So we have that line coming down, but it's coming down on one of the sides much more. And it might even be going up on this side, you know? Like maybe some interesting stuff is happening. Anticipation doesn't mean that everything has to go into the other direction, you know? Maybe we have like a little bit of a bump forming here that wasn't there before. And yeah, so the other lines, and this is what onion skin is really good for, could just stay the same here. The lines on the floor are pretty much the same. And yeah, we have that shape spinning a little bit three-dimensionally, and all the rest. Maybe he is compressing a little, like, you know, maybe this shape is actually bulging out as a as you know, he's squashing down like that. Maybe that will make it more interesting. Maybe we're losing a little bit of volume here. Okay, so maybe, whoop. Yeah, that could work. So this already is an extreme. This we could construct an overshoot for. That would give it a nice extra step here. So let's just try it. Again, I'm making room between those two. I'm gonna put in an extra drawing, and this time onion skin is also gonna help us to really push this. I do wanna push the lines wherever I can. So maybe the butt isn't completely over yet here. I'm not sure what we're going to do with the top part. That might be something we need to figure out later. So we could go in the opposite direction, which would kind of be overshooting here. The ears are a thing that we need to look at later, because you know they are subject to the drag or whatever is happening. So I'm not sure about the ears. We're gonna do that later. But yeah, maybe something like that. Switch it off. Oh, I put it in the wrong, on the wrong side. This is actually going to be, between the, drag and drop with the Huion tablet is very difficult. So this one actually goes here, overshoot and then back. So let's flip through that. Yeah, that gives it a nice little kick. Let's maybe add some of the other volumes that we had here, just so it doesn't flicker as much. Okay. I think this is coming along quite nicely. The other overshoot is probably when he drops that that foot here. We're also gonna have all of the volume settle in. So we're gonna have this time really in this position before he settles down. Oh, we should have saved, by the way. I did not save ever. So, done that now. But which is a good sign. We're streaming for almost 2 hours now, and the software hasn't crashed, which unfortunately I can rarely say about OpenTunes. Even on my super strong PC, it does crash sometimes, which is one of the reasons why I'm checking out other animation software now, because I need something that runs stable. Which, you know, the OpenTunes people are great. They are working on their software super hard and fixing tons of bugs, but I don't know, like sometimes, unfortunately, with, you know, it's very difficult to keep a software stable, especially open source software. So let's do a little overshoot where the volume also squeezes. Like we have a nice little squash, because, you know, we have like a little flour sack. So the flour sacks should squash a lot. I do want to keep the tip of the foot very solid here, because I do want him to you know, appear kind of solid. We can think about what we want to do with the top shape. We could have it leg behind. You know, we could have it still be on the way back, while the lower half is already setting down. We could check how that works, how that looks. It's kind of mellowing the impact because we only have an impact in the bottom half and not in the top half, which makes him feel a little bit, you know, like he's dragging the top half, like it's almost a little bit independent from him. So maybe we don't want to do this. Maybe we want to have a very classic, you know, how we would do it after jump of him coming down. Maybe his head is also still tilted in the other direction. Like, you know, like you would have something like that, but with the ears kind of coming over there. I don't want to lose his cute booty. I feel like we're losing a little bit of the cuteness here. So maybe like that. Still not satisfied with that one. Let's see. Let's start over. So, if we start more expressive, we really want to have that forward bend here, to a point where maybe we can see the top side of that one like that, and then we have like the booty coming out all the way here. How would that work? Kinda something's wrong with this shape. This is not small enough. I think we have it a bit smaller in most of the other pictures. Not quite happy with that one. Okay, taking a more expressive stance here, rather than constructing everything carefully. Maybe that's gonna give us the answer that we seek. I think that could be nice. Hilly confirms Clip Studio Paint has almost never crashed on me. That's good to know. Because, you know, as you go into more like production ready things, it can be really annoying if you have a software where that is an issue. But, you know, even professional animation software, like, it always annoyed a lot. It always was very annoying that, like, even like Toon Boom Harmony, which is a commercial software that costs a lot of money, would sometimes crash on me. So I don't know. Okay, so this foot is not lining up with the rest. All right. Okay. Oh, onion skin is never good for flipping. Always switch it off. And with that, I think we have the extremes covered. And the next thing is my favorite thing, because that is the step where everything comes together, the breakdowns. Let's go back to our little notes. Write down what we're doing next. We are doing next breakdowns. What time is it? 11. Okay, breakdowns are the middle between two poses. And let's start with an interesting one. One that really defines an arc would be going from here to here. This is a super interesting one because it defines how exactly the kick is going to go. And one important information that we want to have in the kick is the arc of it. And probably in this breakdown, what's also going to happen is that our character will kick the ball. So we can really think about where that one actually is. So we make some room between the two, between this one and this one, the key and the overshoot. So we can put our breakdown in between. New cell. There we go. So, and the big problem with breakdowns is you can underestimate the power of them. Like, what we could do is we could just go in the middle between everything. So, you know, the middle between this shape and this shape is a shape there. The middle between here and there is somewhere here. And, you know, have a very, like, I guess predictable is what that would give us. And it works. Eidolon, this is technically not an in-between. Breakdowns have like this special status where they are the in-between right in the middle of the motion. And they do look kind of weird and funky sometimes, but they are very important for feeling how exactly the motion goes, you know? The other thing with kicking a ball, like what I did here is I kind of interpolated the middle of the shape. I guess it could also be like, you know, like this. But then the interesting thing about kicking a ball is you kind of do it with the side of the foot. So it would be more like that. Breakdown is like an in-between of an in-between. Like, it's the in-between two keys, or an extreme and a key. It's the middle of that motion. And you can do all kinds of crazy stuff in there. Like, you probably have seen like smear frames. Like, that's something that we could do. Like, we could have like these crazy speed lines, or they sometimes do with eyes, that you would have multiple eyes somewhere, or like, you know, multiple noses. That's like a Simpson thing that they do. They do like the mouth being elongated and stuff like that. That is the frame for that. In the middle of the motion, that is where your motion is the fastest, and this frame goes by the quickest, but it changes a lot how the motion feels. Because what we could also do, you know, we just did an arc from here to there. We could also do an arc like that, you know, like maybe our ball has a very, our flower sack has a very weird way of hitting the ball, you know, maybe he keeps it in the air like that, you know. Maybe that is something that he does, and that gives our animation a completely different feel, which it is kind of cool, you know. It's worth experimenting with the breakdown because it can give you interesting things. Like, I feel like that feels more like a karate kick, which is also kind of cool to have the flower sack do a karate kick. But it is the breakdown that gave us this entirely different interpretation of our motion here. So what I would recommend is to not rely too much on the onion skin, but, you know, what the good old animators would do is, you know, they would maybe use onion skin for important things that need to be the same, like the contact of that foot, but then they would switch that off and they would just have all kinds of fun with their model. So, you know, we could flip back and forth. That's boring. Let's do something like that, maybe? I think that could work really well. And, you know, they would just work with flipping. And see where that would lead them. And the cool thing about flipping is you would discover all kinds of cool organic looking motions. So I don't know, maybe we could put like a lot of force into that curve and that fold. So maybe actually it's a very belly forward motion for our flower sack, you know, throwing his belly into it, which, you know, is an important mass that he has. I kind of like that. Okay, so that is the breakdown for that most important motion that we have. But we have other important breakdowns, like how do we get from here to there? That's also going to be fun and have some interesting some interesting ways how to get there. Luvu Urban says something interesting. So breakdowns is where acting kicks in, where, you know, I have to say technically acting should be on your mind for every single post that you do. I do like how, like, I feel like the acting in terms of like what are they doing is kind of already done with storytelling keys and extremes. You kind of already have that covered in a way of like, what is the action and how they're doing the action is kind of in there too. If you think about our flower sack here, so this starting position and this kick, no, where is it? Like this kick and this starting position does have a lot of acting choices in it. Like this already tells that he's like kind of droopy, not an athlete, like all this kind of stuff. This kick or this anticipation, like especially this anticipation tells that, okay, he wants to give it his all and stuff. And there are a lot of acting choices in there. But the breakdown has the flavor of that. So it's interesting. I don't know exactly where the line is. I feel like the breakdown can communicate more. It can really nudge the animation into more of this or more of this, but it is not like the main acting defining pose. Like the acting defining pose would be the main keys, you know, like how is the anticipation, how does he drag back the leg, how does he actually kick it, like that is more relevant to acting, but the breakdown is very relevant to the feeling. And if he is like super clumsy, like we didn't do a super clumsy kick, this is where you would, you know, where it would all go wrong, where you would have it like splay around in all kinds of ways, and you would get a very different breakdown because of the acting choices that you made. But the breakdown is so underused because I feel like a lot of people are maybe like, you know, it's the middle of the motion. I'm just gonna, you know, see, okay, I'm here at the start, there at the end. Let's just put something in the middle. You're giving up a chance there to have some real fun. And it is felt. Even, you know, you see the storytelling keys and the extremes. You have a lot more time to see. But the breakdowns are felt. And I personally think that's a very fun thing. So how do we get from there to here? That's also going to be interesting. And that's also where some physics maybe kicks in that we need to remember. Let's move all of this one over. And no, not a new folder, new frame. So again, we could do the boring thing. The boring thing would be like, okay, he's like kind of lifting his head and he's like kind of coming up with that leg. Like, let's do a very boring one. So it would be like he's just kind of morphing into that position. So that would be a boring one, to be a blob. It's okay. It's alright, but it's not cool. And here at Animator Island, we're very cool, as you know. So we're doing something fun. So what fun stuff could we do? We could have him not lead with the head, but kind of lead like with the neck, which would mean that maybe his head tilts down and is still on the way up, and we have like, you know, the middle of the flour sack is where the action happens. Maybe he's like shifting over a little bit too much to free up his leg, and maybe he's not getting a lot off the ground. Okay, so I'm not sure I'm accomplishing that with the drawing I just did, but I think it's already a lot better. Can you see how he shifts to the left? Like, that's important. That's an important element of that in-between, this weight shift. Maybe we can get a lot of that done already and have him like come over almost all the way and have him like okay, so we definitely need that foot here. So maybe he's overshooting. Can you see that? That line is going over the position that it will have in the end. So we're doing an overshoot during the breakdown. And maybe his head is also overshooting and tilted very forward. So he would get a fault here. And the ears would have a little arc here. Do you see that? We have an arc for the head and we have an arc for the ears going like this. And that might give us a more interesting one. Let's see. Whoop. I kind of like that. I'm not sure that is the best one that we can do yet. So this is that leg. Let's see if we want to make a very clear breakdown position for that foot. That could work. You know, sometimes you have to track single body parts and see how you're going to do that. That's actually a very nice technique. Let's do that right now. So let's say we're doing that ear, and then we're doing this ear. And this is kind of interesting because we have an outward arc here, and we have an outward arc here, and we have a little bit of a different arc here. So that's kind of interesting that we have these different arcs going on. And maybe that helps us to feel out that how that would go. Maybe that's a little bit too much on that head. We don't want to have that. We don't want it to leave that volume too much. But I do like the head being tilted forward. I think that could be quite interesting. Zoop. Okay, now one breakdown that we have left is how we get from there to here. That's also going to be important to define. Let's make room. This is so difficult with the stylus. There we go. All right. So, okay, again, we have the boring choice. Like, super boring would be to go in a straight line from the tip of that leg to the tip there. We could do a nice sweeping arc here, or we could do a sweeping arc going like that, which, I don't know, I think I would like him to like drop down a little bit, because he's a heavy little fellow with a heavy little booty. So, you know, we could have him drop down to the floor and then drag the foot back. So he would kind of like drop down and already be on the floor here. He doesn't go back in like a sweeping motion, but he just goes like on the ground. And that will kind of... Let's see. I'm not sure about this one. But yeah, we're gonna try. We have to try it to see if we like it or not. Thank you, McCoy. So, I think what could be nice to have like a little delay of him coming back down. Like he's like catching up speed with the top part, but he's a lot faster with the booty. The booty is like slamming into the ground. And the rest is kind of following. I like that he loses some volume into his butt. Like all of the flour is coming down. Not sure this works. At least not with more keys. Like this could be a key to have him drop down, have a little pause, and then drag the foot back. Like maybe that will work better. I don't think for a short little animation that we're gonna do today, this is probably not gonna work. So let's have him go in an arc over here. Let's see how that works. And same with the head, we're just kind of just going back in that direction. How does that look? I do like the clumsiness of it. Maybe it's a little bit too much. Okay, so how's that one? It's still too much effort. I feel like... rotation is not quite right. So maybe going a little bit more expressive, having him flow into the right shape. Yeah, I mean, it could work. Whoomp. Zoop. That last pose, I do not like it. Let's change it. But maybe we can take it as a reference. Bob Starship says, I've just started the 51 animation exercises. That's fantastic. Exercise 3 of level 1. Haha, that's wonderful. Really, it's a really good thing to do. And you will see that by the time you've done a couple exercises, and especially if you really think about what you could improve and what you could change to make it even better, maybe get some feedback, then you will see that you can really improve quickly with that. Like, it's a really awesome list that JK came up with. And I can really recommend that to anyone. So good luck. Good luck with it. So let's modify this one. I think the bottom looks pretty good, but maybe we can make we can play around with the top a little bit. Let's also consult our model sheet, Said we weren't that happy with the size of the hat. So let's see. Maybe it is just tilted in a way that we can't really see. It's getting more and more like a cat, which I have nothing against cats, but maybe that's not the goal of this exercise. Maybe like that. I don't know. Maybe if we tilt the hat in the other direction, then we still have the hat tilt. Okay. Now, this off, model sheet off. And we see. Whoop. Okay, I just don't want him to look too proud. I do like these kinds of shapes, though. And we have a little bit of the booty coming out, and we still see a lot of the face. I think that is kind of nice. And I think the top shape is cutting into the bottom one here. Like that. So. Okay. We need another breakdown, this time from here to there. And maybe this one could actually be one of the more boring ones, because we had all the action here so far. You know, super boring would be like this, kind of in the middle. I wonder if we could lift the head a little bit unevenly. Like, you know, have a little bit of a rotation inward. And see what that gives us. No, in 3D, in 2D, you sometimes neglect the three-dimensional twists, so that is always nice if you think about doing them. So, whoop. Nice. Cool. Time for timing, I guess. So, how do we get these distributed on the timeline? Let's not actually guess, but really decide where we're going to put things. And to do that, we're going to be working with timing charts on an extra animation folder, extra animation layer. I'm going to put a first drawing here. Out of habit, I want this to be a vector. Drawing. So, how do we get from here to the anticipation? So, if we want this to be kind of starting soft, I think we're going to do a favoring. So, let's say we don't start this animation at frame 1. We're going to start it at frame 3. And then I want to favor the first frame. I want to draw an in-between that is really close to the starting frame, and then I want to draw an in-between that's really close to the finish frame. And this gives us our timing. When we work on twos, which means we don't draw 24 frames per second, we have a timeline that is 24 frames per second, but we want to think in 12 frames per second. So we hold one frame, one drawing. We hold one drawing for 2 frames. And if we do that, then we hold whatever we put on 3. We hold, then we have frame 5, and then we have 7, and then we have frame 9. And frame 9 is where this frame is going to be, because we already figured that out. Now we can move it to frame 9. If I manage to select the things here. 1 forward, like that. Okay, so then we reach frame 9. And from frame 9, we're going to go to that anticipation, which is also an extreme. So let's think about how we get from here to there now. This timing chart is also going to start at frame 9. So the last timing chart ended on frame 9, and the next timing chart is starting with frame 9. So let's put in a new animation cell, and we're gonna start that animation with frame 9. So we already have a breakdown. We already drew this one, and we can use the halving method to give us some spacing. So we could halve this and halve this again, and we could halve this and halve that one again. So now we get frame 11, 13, 15. 15 is the breakdown that we already drew. 17, 19, 21 is the anticipation key. So we know that this one has to go to 15. There we go. And the next one has to be at frame 21. All right, we can already move the other ones far away if we want to have just to check how the timing is working out so far, you know, because sometimes you try something and you realize, oh, it could be a lot faster, but I think this is working out quite nicely. I think this is going to be a nice little timing here. So for the next one, again, you know, we ended on 21, which means that the next timing chart is also going to start with 21. So 21. Now, this one's going to be interesting. I think I want to try to have a slow start and then just go to the overshoot very quickly. I think this might be enough. I might want to add another one here, but I think this should be fast enough. So this would be 23, 25, 27 for the breakdown. And then directly after it, 29 is the overshoot. So this is going to be interesting. We have the breakdown, which is the middle of the arc, the middle of the motion on 27. And despite it being the middle of the motion, it's not the middle time-wise. If you see, our overshoot is coming right there afterwards. So this is the breakdown. You can see the breakdown is not in the middle of this motion. It's in the middle spacing-wise, you know, in space, but it's not in the middle timing-wise. And that should give that kick a nice little snap to it. You see that? I think I do want to have that extra drawing. Yeah, so eases were the halving methods, Eidolon. These are an ease, because what we're doing here is we halve them, we halve the distance again, and we're halving it again. So if you have like a bouncing ball, the spacings are gradually getting larger. So this is an ease out, but it's not easing here. Like this is just slamming into the overshoot without getting slower. So we have an ease here, but there's no ease here. We're just snapping into that overshoot position. I do think, though, that I might want to add that little extra frame here, which will change our timing. So if I do that, then we're gonna have one more here, which is 23, 25, 27, 29 for our breakdown, and then 31 for the overshoot. So everything is just shifted over. 29. So we have a slower start of the kick. We're holding the anticipation a bit longer, and I think I like that more. Okay, so how do we continue from 31? How do we get from the overshoot to the more relaxed version? And I don't think we really need a timing chart for that, because I want that to happen fairly quickly. So that's going to be an interesting case. So we're going to add our new timing chart here. Now, how do we get from that overshoot to that position? I think I want to see that frame. I think I want to see that frame as a favoring for the whole motion that is about to start now, which is how do we get back to this one with that breakdown in the middle? How do we get back from here to there? So let's think about that motion, and let's build this frame into it somehow. We know we're gonna have a middle one. We can do halving method. Kind of don't want to stay there for too long. I wonder if this already works. So let's try it. No, I want one more. I think I want one more, because if we do, we have a 31 starting here. We have 33, which might be the one that we already have. 35, 37. Then 39 is our breakdown. And 41 is the slam into the ground. So let's try it with this one on 35. So we basically turned this into an in-between. 35. 39, we already have 2. That is our breakdown. And 41 is that overshoot. Maybe I want to add a little pause here after the kick. Maybe we're done. Maybe we do want to have that little station up here where it's easing into this one and then coming down. So let's think about that one. Okay. So starting again with 31, which is the overshoot. Let's do just a favoring into the relaxed kick position, which will be on 37. So we have 31, then we have the relaxed kick on 37, and then we start a new timing chart from there. And I'm actually gonna ease out of this to give this more time. So let's create a new timing chart. So the situation is now different. We ease out of this one into this one, and then we ease out of this one into the position on the floor. And that will make this a little like held station at the top of the motion. And that should give us sufficient time to see the kick in the air. Okay, so from 37 onwards, we gonna go back into halving. Let's maybe half this one. It's just a feeling that we need to slow that down a bit. I think that's enough. 39, 41, 43, 45, 47. All right, so this is a little bit longer. 47. Well, the breakdown on 43 and that one on 47. And let's just add this one in the end so we have some context for that motion. Yeah, I think I like it with that little pause in the air. I think that is what was missing. Okay, now we need to think from 47 onwards to the end. 47. And I would say we just do favoring ease, breakdown, favoring ease. So this would be 49, 51, 53, 55. That will be the end. 55, and this one would be 51. So our timed animation looks like this. And we didn't need to guess any of the timings. Maybe we should add a little hold after we reach that frame. We could just hold the leg in the air. But you know what else could influence that is how we actually animate the ball, which we kinda avoided up until now. So I think it could be fair to have the ball during the breakdown very clearly moving. That would be here. So let's put in a new frame. and really think about how the ball could be moving here. Maybe it's being squished a little. So maybe we do have it actually in front of him, which, you know, visibility wise, this wouldn't be the best thing to do, although I do like how skeptical he's looming over it. Let's find a good position for it and then think about the rest later. Aw, my cat is meowing. She hasn't been let out yet for the evening because I'm here live streaming. So we actually wouldn't show the impact, which is okay. It can work really well not showing the impact. Oh, Rainbow, what's going on? Because, you know, that's the cool thing about animation. The brain can fill in the gaps. So we would have this insane spacing here. We're going to do a little bit straight ahead animation, just trying to feel out how it works. I think instinctively, I kind of want to keep the same spacing, at least for the next frame. I kind of want to have, you know, that speed really being felt. And then I think we can kind of slow it down a little bit. But yeah, our ball is not bad, not bad. That is quite a kick. So. He can be proud of that one. Yeah, we do have to hold after the... We do have to hold. After the kick, so we have some more time to see the ball disappearing. And then only after that, we're going to start that motion. So what we're going to do is we add 10 to everything afterwards here. So we're going to continue this animation in 10 frames, 10 frames later than we had before. So this would be 57. Nah, that's too long. So I guess 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that's better. I think that's a decent timing. So let's make a note here so we don't forget about this one. So this is actually gonna start at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 43, is that correct? And we're gonna add a little hold here. From from 47 to 37. From 37 to 43. And then after 43, we're going to start the rest of the motion. So this would be 43, and we're going to do recalculating later when we actually get to this part. So, all right, are there any questions that you want me to answer today? Because if that is the case, please write them in the chat as we are wrapping up the timing process for this animation. I think that's quite nice, huh? That's a nice, sweet little flower sack. Yeah, I like it. Just to show you how inbetweening works. So this first one is kind of easy. It tells us 5 and 7 are both favorings. 5 is a favoring of the previous one of 3. So let's go to 3. This is where our motion starts. And now we're going to do 5. And we can see what we're supposed to do for 5. We're supposed to do a favoring of 3. So let's do that. And for favorings, we can just put on onion skin. And favoring 3, which is the blue drawing, means we're drawing very close to that blue drawing. We are doing a very, very strong ease into the motion. Can you see that? We're almost exactly on the blue line. And there are some cases where we actually are completely on the blue line. Which is for all of everything that is going on down here, because it's static on the ground. Here, the belly is poking out a little tiny bit. There. This one's coming down just a little bit. This line's coming down, this line's coming down. Okay, so if we look at our timing chart, 5 is done. We did a favoring of 3. Now for 7, we're gonna do a favoring of 9. 9 being the green line. So now we're gonna draw close to the green line. So we get an ease into the green here. Gonna give this a little bit more. And yeah, so let's see how that works. Forgot a line there, I had to go back. And this all is the same. I don't technically have to draw things that are the same, because that is something that I could figure out during, you know, while I do the cleanup of everything. But yeah. So now we have done our first part of the motion from 3 to 9. And now for this part, from 9 to 21, we're using the halving method. So exactly in the middle between 9 and 21, we have the breakdown, which we already drew. And because we have that, we can go exactly in the middle, spacing-wise, which is at frame 13, the spacing should be equal. So what we can do is we can go to 13 and then draw a line exactly in the middle between 15 and 9. So this is 9, this is 15. Now I go to 13, create a new drawing, switch on the onion skin, and now I can draw exactly in the middle. So the foot would be here, that little ear would be here, those lines here would be there in the middle, and yeah, this way I can place everything where it needs to go. Kinda like that. And now when that is done... Oh, Rainbow, come on, you don't need to scratch me. Okay, my cat is scratching me because she wants to go outside. I'm gonna let her out really quick, and then I'm going to be back. And we at least gonna finish that motion. So, yeah, see you in a couple, hopefully just a minute. I'll try to be back as quickly as possible. See you then. Okay, so we are back. Now let's think about what we're doing here. We were in the middle, doing the in-betweens. So this is kind of the middle of these. Now that we have 13, we just drew 13. 9 is the one that we started with. We can go once again exactly in the middle between 13, the one we just drew, and 9. We have 11. So we go to 11, create a new drawing, and between those two, we can go exactly in the middle. Now, if we have floppy parts like the ears, they tend to point in the direction where they come from. And, you can do some interesting stuff here. You don't have to just blindly always go in the middle. You kind of have like some choices here. So what we could maybe do for this one is have like a little bit of a push while there's still ground contact. I think that could look quite nice. So, in-betweening can be a mindless work, but you can still think about things a little bit. Actually, this is coming from the other direction. This is coming from here. Which, I don't know if we want that even. But yeah, so we got that first half of the motion now covered. Okay, so now let's look at the part after the breakdown. The breakdown we already have, 21 we already have drawn. So now we can draw 17. We can go exactly in the middle, going to 17. Oops. And now we know that we can go here. But again, maybe I want to be a little bit smart about it. I think it would be cool if, the volume kind of overshoots a little bit. Maybe that part of the belly sticks out a little bit, and we have like this moment where there's a lot of weight onto on that part of the ground here, and it's kind of all just shaking out. There's a little bit of a arc moment here that we might want to support. Maybe we have the ears coming out a little bit. So, we can have some interesting things going on here. Now that we have 17 done, we can do 19, which is between 17 and 21. And have a little ease. Going on here. Because this is the end of the motion, I might want to actually turn this into a little bit of a favoring. So we're going to be very close, kind of close to the green lines. And we want to have the ears point back in the direction that they came from. We can do something similar for the foot. So maybe the foot is kind of like pointing back where it came from. We have like this little moment where everything shakes to come into place. And yeah, then we have our in-betweens all the way up to 21. So let's have a look at how that looks. Very nice, very fluent. And I like the change in rhythm, actually. So one thing we have to kind of pay attention to is that middle line that all of a sudden goes missing. I think it would be nice to be a little more conscious about that one. And have it disappear slowly over time. As the flower sac stretches out. Yeah, I think that's quite fun. Let's do the kick too. Since we're already doing that. What software am I using? I'm in Clip Studio Paint. But you know what we're doing here, you can do in any software. It's just frames on a timeline. Okay, so how do we get from 21 to 31? 29 we already have. So now we can look at 27 because it's between 29 and 21. So, new drawing, and we're gonna be exactly in the middle. And this does require some thinking to how exactly get to there. I do feel like it could be nice if like some of the weight just drops down, like it's using some of the weight to pull over. So this volume is here, maybe here. Huh. So we're coming from the blue. I think the ears we probably have to do again. They kind of flip up like that. Whew, this is a little bit chaotic. But maybe we can do like a little bit of a multiple smear kind of thing already. Maybe not. That should probably be something reserved for... That should probably be something reserved for the breakdown. So now that we have 27, we can do 25, which is in the middle of that one. With that foot just dropping down. I think that side is a good thing to focus on. And we go. Now that we have done 25, we can do 23, which is in the middle. We could actually favor the start of it a little bit more because that is fun. And something that we've also not done is an overlap. Let's say we're holding the top half of our flour sack, so I would just trace over the top half exactly as is, and actually most of the lower half is also as is because that's just fixed to the ground, and the only thing that's already moving is that area, which is nice. I think that could create some interest. Overlaps are when one part of your character starts moving while the other is not. So nice. Okay, I really like the result so far, and now all else we had to do is to finish the in-betweening by following our timing charts, and yeah, but as a little in-between result, I think I'm already pretty happy with this one. Yeah, what do you guys think? I think that's gonna be about it for me for today, unless there are any very important questions in the chat. Don't hesitate to ask if there's something that you think that I could answer right now. I also once again want to mention that we have the group mentoring. When you choose to support us on patreon.com/animatorisland in the group mentoring tier, you can join a group mentoring session every single month. And to that group mentoring session, you can bring whatever you're currently working on. That can be an animation, just the plan to do a certain animation. It could be a storyboard. And in that group mentoring session, I give you tips and tricks on how to improve it and how to build your skills in general so that you become a better artist and animator. If that sounds interesting to you, you might want to check out our more information on Patreon. It's patreon.com/animatorisland, and more specifically about the group mentoring is animatorisland.com/group mentoring. Yeah, and in general, if you want to support me, if you want more live streams, more tutorials on this YouTube channel, then you can also just support on Patreon in the lower tiers. That helps me a lot to keep this channel going and to make lots more fun stuff. Yeah, are there any more questions in the chat? Do we have anything that I can maybe talk about? That does not seem to be the case. Then I want to know, what did you think about this session? Is this helpful? Should I do more tutorials like that, or just take one of the 51 animation exercises and just do it live on stream? Is this helpful to you? Do you think you would like to watch something like this again? That would be really interesting to know. Hilly says it was fun. That is great to hear. McCoy Buck said, great job, Ferdinand. Animating on a live stream is really hard to do. Yeah, I'm also like, the biggest thing that I'm always afraid of, because sometimes animation doesn't work out. I'm so afraid that one day in one of these live streams, I'm gonna animate myself into a corner and be like, guys, we have to start over. Because that's what happens sometimes, Sometimes you just had the wrong idea and need to switch to another idea, and you realize it far too late. So that's my biggest fear. it can be a little bit exhausting. I have to say, like streaming for 3 hours. That's a lot, but it was nice to have all of your comments and reactions in the chat every now and then. And I have to look at the animation again. I have to one more time. I think the result is really nice. It has a little bit of like this Disney flowiness, you know, because we were using the halving method, which was used a lot during the early Disney films. We have like this, like nowadays, I feel like people very much, they would like hold something like this, like the anticipation, and just have like the slightest change here. The halving method gives you some very big spacings, and this is almost like, you know, how in the early days of animation, one pose would just flow to another. We should probably have added a hold there too, but I do kind of like it. It has a nice fluidity to the whole thing, which is really cool. McCoy was animating a walk cycle for a complicated character the entire time you have been animating a flower sack kicking a soccer ball. Awesome. I do like this kind of like working alongside, you know? Sometimes animation can be a little bit lonely, and to just put another live stream of somebody else working on the screen sometimes can give you the feeling of, you know, it's other people are working too. You're kind of working together. I like to do that too sometimes. That's like the only time when I actually watch live streams, because it's like, I don't know, it's hard to get to all that wonderful content that is on the internet. Haley says, I do need to get better at going from rough to being on model. Yeah, jitteriness, that can be so tricky. I do really recommend, if you have like a model sheet from all different angles and stuff like that, have that ready in a layer below your animation, and always slide it up there to check if you're keeping volumes. You know, sometimes you have to change volumes, but yeah, that's a great technique that can help you to reduce that. Wonderful. McCoy says, wasn't expecting a walk cycle to take me 3 hours. Yeah, I've kind of given up on, like, I feel like you get like the rough outline of a walk cycle fairly quickly, because you're like, how hard can it be? You know, the usual stuff with contact pose, passing position, and contact pose should not take that much time. But I've actually, like, I'm calculating now at least a day for walk cycles, because even if you get the walk cycle fairly early, especially with rig animation, I feel like you can just infinitely tweak. And there's just so many details that you can bring out in the walk. And then if it's an early rig, maybe sometimes you need to or a rig that you haven't worked with, you know, maybe you need to tweak the rig or learn some more things about the rig. I'm not going to do walk cycles under a day at the moment. I'm not smart enough. All right. So, thank you all so much for this wonderful live stream with you all. The wonderful input in the chat really keeps me going. It's always a pleasure. Yeah, I hope you could learn a thing or two, and this is my workflow, and maybe we're gonna finish this one. We should finish it. We're almost finished in a subsequent live stream. As always, I try to do more of these. We'll see how that goes. I hope you all are doing great, having a fantastic weekend. Good luck with your own animations. Keep on animating, keep on creating, and yeah, have a great time, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Bye-bye!